YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with a new series inspired by the Danny Provolone, Terrible Take Tuesday. And this is going to involve you guys, the viewers, in the future as we go along with these videos. And we'll talk about how in just a little bit here. But basically what these videos are, we want to gather any terrible takes in the sports world there is, no matter where it's from. The internet's the best place probably. But whether it's Twitter, articles, we want it, and that's where it's going to involve you guys. As you can see on the top right here, that's our Twitter. The DMs are open. We got them wide open. You guys can link us any articles, tweets. We want to gather a bunch of those up from you guys and talk about them in this series. Also, we have a subscriber goal of 40K by the end of this year. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, we have plenty of sports content, NFL, NBA predictions, and full coverage in season for the NFL. So a subscription would be much appreciated, as well as clicking that like button. But remember that Twitter, there's also a link in the description. You guys can DM us or tweet at us any terrible takes that you've seen. Link us to them. We want to gather a bunch of them up for future videos. So pretty interesting thing here. And it doesn't have to be NFL. It could be any sports. Just kind of focusing on the NFL this week. I got an article for you guys today that's pretty terrible, so we're going to just break it down. First, I do want to touch on something else that's pretty terrible, and just real quickly want to talk about it, and that's just the new 18-game season proposal by some NFL owners. And it is pretty interesting. I'll give them that. It's an interesting idea, but it's terrible. And the reason it's terrible is, well, there's a couple reasons. The 18-game season, we're talking about how players are getting hurt too much more and more every year. It seems like there's more, major injuries, major knee injuries every year, and everyone's proposing to just get rid of or really take down the amount of preseason games. They're going to keep those, but they're going to make it 18-game season, and then we go to playoffs. So that off the bat's a little questionable. Maybe if you brought it down to 2 or less preseason games. I'm not a fan of taking away all preseason games. I think you need 2. And then making 18-game season, I'm okay with it. I don't love it. I don't like change in such a great sport. You know, they changed special to kickoffs and kick returns. All that is just ruined, Hate that. They changed the whole extra point where it's kicked from and the goalpost, the width of the goalpost. I hate all that. I just don't like change to my favorite sport, the game we all love. And they're trying to change it big time with this. But the main part that is terrible is the 16 games players are only allowed to play for. So just think of your team's quarterback. That quarterback is only allowed to play 16 games. So my favorite team is Minnesota Vikings. I get to see Kirk Cousins. I know people don't like Kirk Cousins out there, but I get to see Kirk Cousins through 16 games. Maybe there's some crucial games coming up in week 17 and 18. And I don't know which of those quarterbacks we're going to go with. Sean Mannion we got now. Kyle Slaughter, Jake Browning. They're going to have to play the next 2 games. So that's just ridiculous. I mean, they're going to have to up the cap pretty big, I think, because you're going to have to sign a pretty darn good backup quarterback because some teams just play. I mean, they're willing to risk it because their quarterback doesn't really get hurt, so they get a backup quarterback that you just don't have to pay anything, really. So there's going to be a lot more strategy behind it. I think the cap would have to go up, and I think the owners in charge of proposing this are just teams that haven't had success over the years, and they're trying to, find a way to, I guess maybe the Patriots are going to lose 2 more games maybe because of this. Probably not. They'll probably still find a way to win, but Brian Hoyer out there instead of Tom Brady. So I think it's those type of teams, teams that have good backups maybe. Don't think this gets passed. I think it's pretty stupid. I didn't like the pass interference thing this offseason, how they're going to review. I don't agree with the calls last year, but it's just a little much. I don't like change in this great game. I don't think it's broke. There's really no reason to fix it. Maybe some slight things. You just have conversations with the refs. All right, you missed this call. We have to make this call here. Stuff like that. And we can knock down a couple preseason games. And that's really all I'm for. I don't like change. I mean, it's interesting because there would be a lot of strategy behind this, but who you would sit. Okay, maybe the Patriots are playing the Dolphins, all right, and Belichick's like, all right, we're gonna win this game no matter who's at quarterback. We're at home, so you throw in Hoyer, and then you save Brady for the end. So there's some strategy that's pretty interesting to think about. But another big thing is, don't they know that we're playing fantasy football over here? Don't they know that that's just important? Because it's going to screw up all of our leagues. But anyways, another thing that inspired this video is this terrible take of the first week, and Bleacher Report does it. Bleacher Report gives us a terrible I don't really want to show the guy who wrote the article. I'm not trying to rip him, even though I probably should. But this is just terrible. And for the future, you guys can DM us on Twitter. Link in the description. DMs are open. Send us links of tweets. I would like a bunch of tweets from people, experts, so-called experts, or whoever, that are just terrible. We can put those all together. That'd be great. But the first one ends up being an article, which you can send me an article that you may think is pretty terrible, and I'll see if I agree. But this one is the worst contracts. Every NFL team's worst contract by Bleacher Report. I haven't agreed with a lot of their articles lately, but this one's just, if I don't agree with it, that doesn't mean it's terrible, you know? But this is you'll see. A lot of you maybe have seen this already. So this Bleacher Report earns the spot on the first ever Goat House Terrible Take Tuesday. So every NFL team's worst contract. And there's a big problem with this article. So the Cardinals is David Johnson, 3-year, $39 million, 20, whatever. You know, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing on that one. You know, I don't know if the one thing I will say, David Johnson demanded more money when he had one really good season. I know he's good. I know he's capable of having another one, but I think they gave him that money too early. They let him control them a little too early in his career. So I will say that's bad. That's bad on the Cardinals. As you scroll down this article here, I mean, you start to see a trend. You start to see pretty much guys that are, for the most part, the highest paid players on each team. And that's my biggest problem. That's why I think this is a bad article here. This is just, there's bad takes everywhere. It's because the worst contract has to be a guy like this one, like the Bills one. I agree with Star Lotulelei. I mean, he's more of a chance, but they paid him a lot when, he hasn't really proven too much yet, and he hasn't really worked out for them quite yet. But so that one I agree with. It should be more like that. But really, what I've noticed for the most part is they take who's the highest paid player. Like, I don't know if Quan Short's necessarily a bad contract. He had an off year. And I think this is just kind of, I hate to be mean, but I think it's kind of lazy. You get down here to the Bears, and once again, my kind of proves my point. They're just taking who the highest paid player. I mean, I can make an article. I can go list every player that's the highest paid on each team, and for the most part here, I mean, Khalil Mack, you could argue is the best player. You really could argue is the best player in the NFL. Most people would say a quarterback, or Aaron Donald will say he's the second best defensive player in all of football, maybe the second best player in all of football. You see the step the Bears took. They may have been good anyways without Khalil Mack, but he helped them take that extra step. They traded for him, and they give him this contract. And you don't see pass rushers like this every day. So, I mean, it's almost like, obviously they're going to try to give him, he's going to try to get the best deal he can get, and the Bears are trying to get the best deal they can get. I think the Bears would have paid him much more than this, really, if it came down to it. Khalil Mack just wouldn't play for the Raiders. The Bears knew that. They trade for him. It's got to make them happy. This team likes me a lot. They're really passionate about their defense. They're trying to win right now. He's going to sign. He's going to sign the contract. So I think they would have paid him more, and I have no problem with that. And I just think this is lazy. They're just taking the best the biggest contract, and it ends up being the worst contract. It really doesn't make any sense. You don't think they think, and you don't think he's worth that contract, and you start to see a pattern. Now, Geno Atkins is the best player on the Bengals. I mean, maybe you can argue A.J. Green or Joe Mixon going forward, but Geno Atkins has been the best player in my opinion. Defensive tackle, there's not too many great defensive tackles like this. 4 years, 65. I mean, why is that so bad? And you got the Browns just signed Sheldon Richardson. I think that was another piece they needed. Just one more veteran D tackle in there with the young guys. And then look who just got paid and who's the highest paid player on that team at the moment. It's DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, somebody else would have gave him that money. So I think they're just trying to find recent big ones, or like this one, which is hard to come across the good right tackles. No problem with that one. Their highest paid player. I mean, who else are you going to pay that money? You're going to go get a worse quarterback just so you can pay him less? That's my problem with people bashing how much quarterbacks get paid too. It's you see the money and you're like, wow, yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean, you don't think they should sign him for that. I mean, you're going to go get a worse quarterback for less money? It doesn't really make any sense. There's a recent signing. Maybe it's a little much. Aaron Colvin, this one. Yeah, some of these aren't like a ridiculous amount. I just think for the most part, they just took the highest paid player on each team for the most part here. And there's just, I mean, Frank Clark. I mean, they just traded for him because they're desperate for a 4-3 defensive end that's proven and who can be consistent. You know, D4 he was great last year, but that was his only good year. Not so great against the run game at times. And they're switching defenses, so they had to get their guy Frank Clark, and they had to pay him. So I mean, it's a little much, but I mean, it's just, I think they're worth it. Everybody gets paid more and more every year, so it's going to look like a good contract a couple years. And once again, the highest paid player, Casey Hayward. This is a great contract. I don't know. To me, one of the best corners in football is not only, but $33.25 million. That's a really good contract to me. And then Todd Gurley, 4 year. I mean, this one, if his knees continue to get worse or he's not able to play going forward, I guess you could say, yeah, I guess that was a bad contract. But really, is it? You know, when they realized he was the best running back in football, which he was, they gave him that money. Was it really stupid of them? No, it wasn't. The Dolphins, Rashad Jones, 5 years, $60 million. The Vikings, I mean, you knew that one was coming. You know, I don't have a problem with that one because you can't really say anybody else is overpaying the team. But once again, everyone rips them for this contract. But, I mean, it was either that or I guess the other argument, I guess a valid one, was keep Keenum for less. Not an insane amount less, though. But, I mean, who's going to be their quarterback is really the question there. And then the Patriots, Stephon Gilmore, 5 years, $65 million, just played like the best corner in football last year. So, I mean, they're just going for who has the biggest price tag pretty much. And Drew Brees is the worst contract for the Saints. Now it's the bad contract. It's complicated. Okay? 2 year, $50 million. So they're done with them. They could be done with them after this year, and that's if they want to be done with them or if he's retired. I mean, I don't get. He basically took a hometown discount too. There's rumors that other teams were willing to pay way more, and it was almost laughable because he wasn't leaving. You know, so it's just ridiculous. You know, looking for a big contract. You know, they know the Giants' offensive line's not good, so let's pick out the guy with the biggest contract here. But little do they know, Nate Solder is actually their best offensive lineman, and the left side of the line actually played pretty decently. You know, it was the reason they struggled is because the right side was pretty terrible, and everybody knew that, so it was pretty easy to game plan against the Giants. So, bad one there. C.J. Mosley, you know, a guy that can captain your defense. You know, a middle linebacker like that doesn't come on the market, could become available on the market. He did. Somehow the Ravens couldn't get him back. The Jets paid him. I think it's good. I think it's a good contract. I don't know. And Trent Brown, maybe a little much. He hasn't really proven much besides, you know, he really, really good year on the Patriots, but it's the Patriots. Carson Wentz, I thought that was a little much, but you got to lock up your quarterback if you believe in him. They know way more than we do there. They know what fits their offense in there, and it's going to go up. Quarterbacks are going to keep getting paid more. You know, I'm not 100%. I don't 100% agree with this contract, but I thought it was a little much. But you can understand it here, and you can't sit here and say it's a bad contract. Roethlisberger, 2 years. I mean, it's a lot of money for 2 years, but it's not. I don't think it's really hurting the team right now because who are you going to have at quarterback? The Niners, Weston Richburg, sure. And then here's another one, Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in football. I mean, pretty much carries this team at times too. Now, hasn't had the weapons that other top quarterbacks or Super Bowl winning quarterbacks has had over the years. This money was owed to him a while ago, and he's definitely deserving of it. If you don't have him, you have the worst team in football. The Seahawks without Russell Wilson they're the worst team in football. So this is their worst contract apparently, just because it's their most. It has the biggest amount next to that dollar sign. And then the Bucks just re-signed Donovan Smith 3 year, 41. So it's a recent one. I don't know. Titans, Malcolm Butler. I mean, it's kind of a wait and see if it's that terrible. First half of the year he was pretty terrible last year. Then the second half he actually played very well. So it's kind of a wait and see. It's somewhat of a recent one. Big money, good amount of money there. Redskins is Alex Smith, 4 year, $94 million. And it wasn't bad until he got hurt. So I mean, I guess you can say that. So I don't know. I just think why I have this under this video is because I think they went through and just found out, for the most part, obviously not every time, who had the biggest contract, and there's some that I just completely disagree with. So I know it's the offseason. It's hard to come up with some content at this point, the dead part of the offseason. We're ready for the NFL season, so I guess that's what happened there. But if you have any terrible takes, we kind of like this idea. It'd be pretty funny. Even if they're from our comments of our videos, you can screenshot them, send them our way. Twitter DMs are open. Link in the description for that Twitter. But that's going to do it for this one. Let me know if you guys like this idea. Maybe you don't. So let me know, please. And hopefully you guys can get involved here. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't quite yet. Daily sports videos, full NFL coverage in season. Can't wait. Goodbye.